Look, there's just four things. Keep going to meetings, read this book I'm giving you. Don't drink. If you think you're gonna drink, call me first, never after.
The book had many, many different chapters, all about his life. I focused in on alcohol recovery in AA, and he had this really good chapter where his sponsor Donnie became his sort of mentor.
Donnie is a character who runs the AA group that John Callahan, Joaquin's character, goes to get sober, and he becomes John's sponsor and close friend and kind of guides him through this experience of getting better and healing himself.
It has its own like kind of rules, step by step, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They kind of lent themselves to an interesting process in a story.
One of the objectives of group is to provoke a new awareness to unwanted or unnecessary emotional problems.
In his own story, I think that he realized that his problems weren't that he was a quadriplegic and he couldn't walk and he was in a wheelchair. His problems eventually he realized, was that he could not stop drinking.
I had to admit to myself that I was powerless over alcohol.
So it's really sort of from the point of view of that group that everything's being told.
I'm an alcoholic. Good to know you, John Callahan, who is an alcoholic.
Yeah, so we just sort of feel it.
Lady kind of thing where they turn the background and foreground. I mean, John, we had photographs, we had a whole book by John. We had I'd met John personally 100 times. Donnie, nobody had ever met him. There wasn't a book about him. He was like a completely original character.
It's a really important visual idea because what Donnie is presenting is a guy that John trusts to be with John on this incredibly difficult journey that he's embarking on.
He at first sort of notices him as a guy who's, as he said in the book, rocking that like a Tom Petty look, which gave Jonah a lot of inspiration.
I was just listening a lot to Gus because he knew John and he didn't know Donnie, but John would talk about him all the time. So I just really listened and asked questions. And the book was a really helpful resource.
As a dramatic tool, I've very often had my characters just go off and just say whatever they want, which isn't really improvising, but it's like an ad-libbing form that I've done a lot, but I'm not really authority on it. He is, so I told him, if you see avenues for a little humor, the story can use a little bit of it because it's a little down.
John doesn't like us.
Well, of course I like you. I just can't get laid with any of you.
Have you tried?
Well, have you tried?
And that's why Gus just rules, because we were on the couch in Donnie's house and he's like, oh, we just need to get this shot of you. And he's like, what would you be doing? And then I was like, dancing would be great,
We were, filming in the house, and one day they came to me and they just told me that they wanted to have a new scene of Donnie dancing in the house. It was a fun opportunity to see sort of how much of Donnie's appearance is a creation for the world and how much we get to see of him and his own secret life. And so when we got to have him dancing around, we knew it had to be short shorts. That was a given. And then we found that really fun terry cloth top, and it was just brilliant to watch Jonah take this, very fun outfit and then push it into a very believable place.
The idea that Gus just liked that, and I think also everything's so heavy that there's a moment of him just enjoying life was cool to me. That was cool that he had a private moment of just being kind of free and happy in the middle of dealing with other people's trauma all the time.
I mean, that's just one of the many reasons I love working with Gus so much, is that there's a real sense of creating a living, breathing thing that constantly evolves and grows.
It's cool to just see someone who's made so many films be visibly excited in the way that, you think people may lose because they've done it so much. I just don't think I've ever been happier, more challenged, but also happier, being a character for a while.
I think he had an angle on the character, but it was unique. It was somebody who had a lot of authority and power, but also spoke very softly. He found that interesting. So that's partly what he's doing.
Grasp it, but it is out of your reach. Because it is subtle, you call it intangible.
Who's that? Is that Elton John?
Lao Tzu. Chucky. I usually play characters that are more, I would say, like unsettled inside, and Donnie, even with all he has going on, was really seemed to be kind of at peace inside. And that was like a really, really awesome thing to get to be for a while. Drink water.
You too.
It doesn't work. It really doesn't.